Welcome to the Winner's Playbook with Steve and Josh. Disclaimer: the information contained in this podcast is general in nature and does not take into account your personal circumstances. Please head to the show notes if you wish to book a free 15-minute call to discuss your personal situation.
Welcome back to the Winner's Playbook, another episode. My name's Steve. I'm here with Josh. Josh, another week down. What's the latest?
What's the latest? Geez, we got back from Sydney. It kind of summed up, I think, towards the what it's like towards the end of the year. It was just pretty frantic. I was up in Sydney for 24 hours. It felt like I never really even put my feet down on the floor when I was there. But that was a good little trip. I actually haven't been to Sydney much. That was the second time I've actually been there in my life, and did like it for the brief amount of time that I was there. But I can't say I had enough time to kick the feet up and relax or go on any sort of sightseeing. So it's pretty busy towards the back end of the year. How'd you go in Sydney, Steve? Did you kick the feet up at all? Or
Look, mate, I was actually working hard up there.
Okay.
Some of us had to go do some work, but that's okay. No, it was good. Good quick trip. I'm used to those quick trips, mate, with my travel around, and good to see you getting on the wagon. No, it was good. Couple of good client meetings, and we attended the IFA Excellence Awards up there for Links.
Yep.
That's fantastic. But no, good trip.
No, it was, and I guess what we're talking about today, Steve, the FIRE movement. It's not something I've really spent a huge amount of my time researching before, but it's definitely something I think a lot of people are thinking about it. And ultimately, is it a realistic goal? So when did you ever hear that term, FIRE movement or FIRE? Have you ever heard that thrown around, Steve?
I have, Josh. Look, it's pretty heavy on the social media. You see it going around every now and then. People figuring out ways to retire early, and this is a common one. This one, well, if you want to call it a strategy, I'm not sure it's a strategy, but it's similar to just saving as many bucks as you possibly can while you're young, cutting back significantly on a lot of expenses and really reining it in all facets of your life, with a goal of stopping work effectively in a nutshell. And you see it quite commonly. There's a lot of different caveat, like a lot of different ways that this can be done, and you see different angles every now and then that pop out. But effectively, that's it. It's just pulling back the strings on absolutely all parts of your life to retire early, effectively.
Yeah, and so if we define the FIRE movement, so for anyone listening, financial independence, retire early. That's what it actually stands for, and there's a bit of a formula actually to achieve your FIRE or retire early, essentially. And basically, there's a couple of ways of doing it, but the main one is you take your annual expenses, so all of your cost of living, so your bills, food, whatever it may be, and you take that figure. You can either times it by 25, and that's essentially your FIRE number. That's what you need to hit before you can then retire. Or you can also take your annual expenses and divide it by essentially like 4% or 0.04 if you're just doing it on a calculator, and it'll spit out the same figure. But essentially, you need to build your investments up to that amount. And then once you hit that amount, you're drawing out 4% a year, which is equivalent to your annual expenses. So for example, maybe it's $40,000 a year that you need. So you need to reach $1 million. And once you've then got that $1 million in your investments, you then live off that, draw out 4% a year. And the idea there is that you'll never actually run out of any of your money whatsoever. So there's a few moving parts to it. But like you were saying, Steve, to get to that at an early age, because that's really what the FIRE movement is I don't want to wait till I'm 65 and retire like the mass majority of people do around the world. I want to do it when I'm young, when I'm in my 20s or I'm in my 30s or 40s. And I think if you're retiring in your 50s, that's a good effort there in itself. But the biggest part of then that strategy, if we want to call it a strategy in a way, is you're cutting back extremely on your like what you're doing with your money. So in some cases, you need to be saving 60, 70 or 80% of your income, pushing that all into the investments, because you're trying to get as much money invested as quickly as you possibly can to hit your FIRE number as quickly as you possibly can. Yep. And then that obviously requires some, major changes to your life. So Steve, how do you think you would go, chopping out 70 or 80% of your income? And would you want to do it?
Look, mate, it's not for me. I'll be honest with you. This one's not for me. I don't really agree with it. I've got pretty strong views on this one. What's the point? Like, like cutting out all your niceties of life for, I just don't get it. There's so many other ways you can do this. Yeah. And the other part that makes me laugh about this one is, like, what are you going to do? Like, say you don't do anything, right? And for a job, and there's lots of fun jobs you can do which don't feel like jobs, right? So like if you're going to retire in your 40s or what are you going to do with your life? Like, I just don't
Yeah.
get it. So, and the funny thing is, I've got the actual results of this because I see clients who try to retire,
Mhm.
and literally 99 out of 100 go back and do something for a job, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, so the likelihood of you wanting to totally retire, full stop, and not do anything is just unrealistic, I think, because the chances are you're going to want to do something.
Yeah,
So,
well, you're going to lose yourself. Like if you
yeah,
don't, like, yeah, you have that. Like we've all got that drive in us and that fire, and in a way, like you always want to be doing something. Like it's just built in us as humans. And then what do? You get to the point, and then you stop working in your 30s or 40s, where you still got heaps of energy and lots going on. And then you're just going to kick the feet up on the couch and say that's enough. The innings
yeah.
is over. So yeah, it doesn't make sense in my mind when I think about it. But maybe we're weird, Steve. I don't know. Maybe we are. But I think people just need to reframe the way that they think about retirement, because I think there is so much of a concern around that retiring early or not wanting to wait to your 60s. But then if you're going to try and then do that strategy in all of your best years when you're still young, you got plenty of energy, you're basically doing nothing and you can't go out. You're not exploring the world. You're not having any fun whatsoever because you're trying to live off peanuts essentially. Save as much money as you possibly can and plowing it into your portfolios or your investments. And we've all seen people die early in life as well, and so you're doing all of that materially for what, when something at any point in time in any day could then go wrong. And what have you lived for? Have you had any fun? Yeah, it doesn't stack up in my eyes.
So what do you think is a better alternative here? Like, we deck this out a lot for clients, and we're all for creating passive incomes, right? That's our job, is to
Yep.
create passive incomes for clients, to have the option to take some time off work or
Yep.
flexible with work or work 2 days a week. That's totally fine. That's great.
Yep.
But what do you think is a better solution here?
Yeah, I think the easiest way that I always think about is, if you're going to be cutting out your expenses, that's good to a point, but there's a point where you just won't be able to go below, because you still got to pay your bills, you got to pay your rent or your mortgage or whatever it may be. You got to put food on the table. I suppose you can, to an extent, live very frugally there. But the easy thing, and I always say this to my clients, is we're going to put in place a cash flow structure. I want to keep you, still living a good lifestyle. Like, I'm not going to have you eating out, eating Wheat Bix for breakfast, lunch, and dinner or anything like that. Like, I still want you to live a good lifestyle. To an extent, we're going to cut down on some expenses, but the easier equation here is just figure out how to earn more money. That is by far the easier way to achieve all of what you want to achieve.
Yep.
And there's no cap on that. As we've said in other podcasts, like, there's no cap on your earnings potential. The only limiting factor is just you. So
Yep.
if you're likely, if when you hear someone say that you can earn whatever you want in life, and if you listen to that and go, well, that's a load of bullshit. Well, again, that's just you getting in your own way with limiting beliefs that you can't have that for yourself. And that's what I just really impart onto my clients, is like, there's no cap on what your earnings potential is. So rather than just cutting out all of those expenses, living so frugally, yes, we want to do that to an extent. We need to have some rules of engagement. We're not just going to be blowing all of the money all of the time, but have a plan then in place, and then figure out how to get more money then into the household, so we can then be investing more money sooner. And if we did want to get to a position of financial freedom earlier, well, we can, but we can also have some fun along the way. We can have a couple of holidays a year, go out and see the friends on the weekend or whatever it may be, and you're not just stuck in your own little cave doing nothing with your life. But the biggest factor there is not tripping over your own feet, so to speak. But yeah, what about you, Steve?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's about putting in steps to just create more revenue streams, right? And I think that's what we do for clients. Even when we sit down and someone's got a full-time job as an employee, we can always
Yep.
sit down, look at their circumstances, look at how to build more wealth, but also look at how to build those passive incomes and revenue streams and get multiple revenue streams. You and I do it for the business all the time. We're always looking at what's a new revenue stream. We constantly do that. I think you and I talk probably 40 times a year about different ideas to create different revenue streams. Absolutely,
Yep.
everyone should be doing the same, and that's where you and I probably add a lot of value to our clients, because we constantly look at situations. What is the best way that we can create another revenue stream? So yeah, I'm all for just doing that, making more money,
Yep.
to have that lifestyle and saving that bucket of wealth for the future, to
Yep.
then take the pressure off having to work down the track.
Yep.
My conversation with clients is always about, look, the reality is you're going to want to do something for a job. So let's
Yep.
just have that flexibility to make those choices. So let's build the wealth to create that lifestyle that you can have that choice, really.
Yeah, and you're touching on income stream. So What are we talking about when we're saying income streams? Like what are the main ones that we're typically, we're doing with clients? What are some of those?
Yeah, so income streams through investments. So, managed funds or exchange traded funds that we invest in, we call the two ticks. So we want one, income coming off those investments, plus we want capital growth, right? That's
Yep.
your two targets you're aiming for. So as soon as we start investing in those vehicles, then we're going to start getting paid distributions and dividends, because those vehicles are investing in buying companies like the BHPs and the Telstras and the whatnot, packaging it all up into one fund. And that fund then starts paying you an income from those dividends and distributions that it's receiving. So that's your first tick. And then your second tick to build wealth for the future is the capital growth. So you've got those share prices lifting over time. And as long as we have time, then it'll go up in value over time, unless it's a really bad investment, of course.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we're aiming for. But that's the typical type of revenue stream, passive revenue stream. And I think you spoke about this a couple of podcasts ago about, it's revenue you're getting and you're not doing anything for it, right? It's just investments working for you while you're asleep. So that's the best type of money that you're going to ever earn, because you actually don't physically need to do anything. Amazing, right? Secondary is probably your investment properties. You buy an investment property, you put a tenant in there, you want the tenant to pay you rent. That rent's going to pay you that income. So that's typically what we see. But then there's heaps of other different investments you can go into, unlisted assets, private equity vehicles. I know a fund that buys water rights. So the government releases, water titles, and that water titles pays you an income. So if you bought some of those rights, it's going to pay you an income. So there's heaps of different ways to have that passive income, as well as physical exertion through, doing some work.
Yep. And I think the one I always talk about with clients as well is, like you said, there's the investment portfolios, managed funds, ETF, index funds, or in some instances shares. You got your property and other assets, but then the other big one is also business. Like business is another big asset. And, for a lot of the clients, where I do my best work is when they are involved in business, because, when you're involved in business, you ultimately have control over the success of that. And I think it's the best ROI, or return on your investment, that you can ever get is when you're in business, because you can start it like you've done with Link, start with zero and grow it exponentially. And it can be, again, it goes down to the individuals, like how big do you want it to be, and that return on your money, I think, is huge. Like, you can still do incredibly well out of property, don't get me wrong, and investment portfolios, but you can't really control that, because you're sort of handing your money over to an investment manager who's then selecting the investments. And yes, we do that. Like, I invest every fortnight, regardless of whatever's happening in my life, into those portfolios, but it's very passive. Like, I don't have to think about it. It's just ticking away there and in the background. Constantly looking at buying property. Just bought another property in the last couple of weeks. But again, it's more of a passive investment. I don't really want anything to do with it, just doing it for the longer term. But then really where 95% of my time is just in the business. And that's where I'm expecting to get the biggest payoff. And I think that can be a great retirement vehicle for clients. And I've seen clients go it through themselves, like they build their business up and they end up selling out at some point in time. And that's where I see most of the big bucks being made, is when people are involved in business.
I totally agree. I think it's, I look at my own personal circumstances and where all my probably wealth's come from, to be honest, is from business, effectively. Yeah, well, I've bought a couple of properties in my time, and that's been paid off, and because I've held them for a long time. It's a long-term investment, as you just said. But realistically, as you said, the ROI that you can get off having a good business and you run well. Obviously, you've got to run it well. Pays off in spades if you want to put the work into it. So I totally agree with that. And if I look at my own personal circumstances, probably passive revenue streams, I've probably got 20 different revenue streams that I've created over time through the property business, investments, and that's current, right? They might only generate a couple of bucks a month, some of them, but it's still an income that you can then build over time. But absolutely, the one that is the paid off the most is definitely the business.
I think the key there is just to have diversity as well. You don't want to have all the eggs in one basket, and the more income streams you can have coming in, the better off you'll be. But talking, we've kind of said that, we're not great fans, I suppose, of the FIRE movement, but what about retiring early and, creating financial freedom, or what is financial freedom? I speak to that a lot about clients. Like, what in your opinion, what does it mean to you, Steve? Like, what would financial freedom look and feel like? Would that be retiring at an age, or what do you think it would be for you?
I reckon, if you, in a total nutshell, if you could generate the income that you need to have a really good life and pay the bills and go on holidays and work out what that figure is, and then have that coming in with you not having to lift a finger That's
Yep.
financial freedom, right?
Yep.
And then if you do that, and then you're still doing 1 or 2 or 3 days a week of the job you love, then you've ticked all the boxes, right? Because you still keep them busy and doing what you love. And as I said before, most clients that try to retire in full just go back and do some work again. So it's just about doing whatever you love. And I love, this is my job, I love it. But having your bills paid and life paid for with you not having to even think about it, that's got to be the big tick in life, I reckon. How about
Yeah, I
yourself?
think it's put simply, it's just having the ability to do what you want when you want, and
Yeah.
and not having, like you said, not having to rely upon getting up and working your 9 to 5 or going to business or whatever it may be, because you've done all of that hard work in your earlier years. You've built up all those passive income streams and investments, so that you really work as a choice. It's not a must. Like, you're just working because you want to, not because you have to. And I'd say in probably 99 out of 100% of clients or cases that I'm working with, clients in their maybe late 20s, probably more in their 30s and 40s, it's not about hitting a age and stopping work forever, but it's being in, say, maybe in our 50s and having financial freedom, which is not an exact income figure, but it's being able to do what we want, and ultimately when we, as opposed to just kick your feet up, never doing anything again. And when I think about it for myself, because every now and then I sort of delve right down into the future of what it holds for me, and I think about when would I stop? Because I don't think Alana would ever want me to stop working. And mind you, I think I would go crazy if I didn't have something to drive me, and my energy wasn't directed somewhere. I probably would end up doing the wrong things. If I was a kid and didn't have things that I was focused on, I probably would have went down a different path. So I need to be directing that energy somewhere. And yes, I don't think I'll probably work at the same rate that I am forever, but the way I sort of see it is, once I feel like I've achieved financial freedom, I definitely don't feel like I have, like, got big ambitions, and like a lot of clients that I work with as well. But I think I want to get to a point where I'm definitely not going to take my foot off the gas, but be able to then help others do the same, and like really mentor the younger generation. So like, I don't want to be 60 and doing that. Like, I would actually like to be in my, say, late 30s, early 40s, in a situation where I can take a step back, and there's just enough income flowing from all of the investments and assets I've built up, where I can actually help others just get their own, and help bring up the next generation, or educate, get into schools like we've spoken about. We've already started the school program, and we're not asking a payment for any of that. Like, we're doing that of our own time to really help impart knowledge and teach that next generation. So like, but that's a passion for me, and that's where I want to ultimately then get to in life. And I think that's then the key that you need to figure out, is just what it is for you. Like, what actually is it for you? Like, what is that destination? Like, is there an age? Is there a certain amount of income? Because if you don't have a destination, it's like you drift around, and you don't really know what you're targeting or anything before. So what do you sort of then talk about with clients then around that, Steve? Like, what are the keys to a successful retirement in your opinion? Like, what are the things you need to be doing, or what are some of the key things you speak about with clients?
Yeah, I think, look, if they're in their 40s building wealth, it's about getting those asset bases up. Don't worry too much about the debt at this stage. You want multiple assets, so the key focus is just concentrating on getting assets outside your family home. Let's build.
Yeah.
And then it's having a good debt strategy, obviously, over time, to pay that debt down. We want to get rid of it. Forget this tax deduction stuff. Just pay down debts over time, and then you've got all these asset bases creating passive incomes as soon as you start buying them, with a view then we pay down the debts, and away you go. Then you get to the point where you're in your 50s or late 40s, where it may be, and you got multiple assets that have got no debt on them, and away you go, really. So that's it. And then it's just sitting down with your advisor and working out what that sort of figure is, in a way. Like, if you can sort of get a pretty close to the number as early on as possible, you can definitely adjust that figure of what it looks like over time. But if you get your starting point, if it's 100 grand a year, or 150 grand a year, or 200 grand a year, whatever that is, because that's really going to drive then, okay, how much assets do we need? How aggressive do we need to invest? What's our risk profiles look like? How many, what we're doing there. So that helps you and your advisor. And then it's about working out what tax structure we're going to use. So, you really want to pan out, are we going to use super? Are we going to use non-super? Are we going to use company structures? Are we going to use a family trust? Whatever it may be, get that right, because that's really the starting point to invest, because you've got to get it right to start before you start buying those assets. So that's really the message I deliver to clients, and we work that out, and then we tinker with it as we go on year, because some investments are good, some of the other investments are good. So it's just about adjusting it as we go and making sure we stay to the road, right? Like
Yep.
keep on going. As you said before, you keep investing over and over and over, no matter what happening in the market. And that's our job, to keep them investing, and don't back it off.
Yeah, and I think the key in closing there, the key message is like just actually having a plan in place and being proactive with it, not being, reactive in life. And particularly when you're looking at your year to year, like plan out like how many times you're going to go away for the year. Don't just, ad hoc month out, like these trips pop up online and yeah, great, let's book and head off to it. Like actually have a plan in place. And that's just what we do on a day in and day out basis with our clients. Like that's just what an advisor does in a nutshell, kind of help you figure out what you want, when you want it, but then ultimately how to get there and then be, some of that visionary in a way for you so you can see what needs to then happen, but then also be there most importantly along the way to hold you accountable, because, there's going to be knocks in life. There's going to be things that then go wrong and you can quite easily fall off the path, like you were saying, or fall off the tracks. And, sometimes it can help having someone there that can actually help get you back on track and ultimately keep you, heading towards that target, because it can be hard when you're thinking, 20 years down the line and, you get a year or two in and you're like, shit, I'm not even close to this thing yet. Do I just quit and just live day to day and not even think about the future? So I think it is a huge piece that a really good advisor can do for you, and just having a plan in place, as simple as that, and understand that it's going to be different for everyone. So like seriously take time to think about what you want in life. I've got clients that need that 150K to 200K passively a year. And I've got clients that are doing that because they've worked so hard to build up, into retirement. But I've also got other clients that only need 50 to 60K a year. So, don't try and keep up with the Joneses, and just really try and figure out what it is for you. So, guys, that's all we've got time for today. So I just want to thank anyone that is listening in. And if you're listening here on Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating, because it does mean a lot. As always, check us out on the socials, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, etc. We are all over them. Please do give us a follow. And if anyone does want to actually chat about your personal financial situation, you can go onto the show notes, book in a 15-minute call with either Steve or myself, or even better, just go to the website and you can have a look at all of the advisors and figure out who might be best to chat to you. So guys, that's all we've got for today. Steve, any final message?
I think just instead of pulling back and working out how to save a few bucks, let's concentrate on how to create more money.
That's a great way to end it, Steve. I'll see you on the next one.
See ya. Bye.